Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a tank review for the brand new Tier 8 Premium Mercenary Medium Tank, the Lævateinn, or however you say it, however it's spelled. I'm just going with the Lævateinn, it's easier, alright. So, if you did like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Lævateinn, it is the Mercenary Tier 8 Medium Tank that's come out in the new Valhalla set of tanks. What's it like as a vehicle? Well, it's just a fairly average tank, to be honest. There's nothing too special about it. It's one of those tanks that is fully capable of defending itself. You can have good games with it, but it also struggles in a fair few other situations. The gun depression is nice on it, the mobility is okay, the turret armor is really good, but the hull armor isn't that great, and the gun is just that little bit derpy. DPM's fairly average, and 280 alpha is not too bad. The penetration on its standard is a little bit low though, but you do have pretty good premium penetration. So on the whole, it's just one of those tanks that is just alright. It's just alright. There is nothing that special about it, like I say. It sits there, it plays like a tank that's a medium tank that's got a bit of armour and a decent bit of mobility, but on the whole, it's not going to tear the world apart, which is pretty good because it's nice to have a nicely balanced vehicle come out, right? As always. So let's get into the statistics of the Lævateinn. So on the Lævateinn, you've got a 56 km/h top speed with a 22 km/h reverse speed, 520 horsepower engine, which is 16.71 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you do get up to the 56 km/h top speed. It's just a little bit sluggish getting there, but on the whole, it's not too bad, and you're in the middle of fire chances in World War II, so you can set on fire, but it doesn't get set on fire that often, in my personal experience. 44 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed is pretty damn quick, so it does turn very, very quickly on its tracks. Great terrain resistances do not hold this tank back whatsoever, so that's quite glorious for the Lævateinn. 340 metres of still concealment is pretty poor though for the tank. You can help that out with the crew skills and a camo net, and I think you can get it down to about 290 metres of still concealment, something in that region, which is really not that bad at all for a Tier 8 medium tank. It's not great either, it's just pretty good if you are speccing out for camo. But honestly, you have to trade quite a bit, and the gun handling is one of those things that is really frustrating on this vehicle if you don't help it, and you'd have to trade the gun handling for the camo. So yeah, it's down to you and how you want to play the vehicle, really. We've got 380 metres of view range, which is average for a Tier 8 medium tank, so it's good enough. You've got 38 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, so that turret rotation is slower than the hull. So bear that in mind with your Lævateinn. 1.6 metres of accuracy during rotation with a 3.53 accuracy during movement. That is utterly atrocious. Genuinely. As a combination, that is really bad. 1.6 accuracy during rotation is awful. 3.53 isn't terrible, but it's also not great, which means the aim circle becomes really large if you do not help it, which is why you're not going to drop the gun stabilizer for a camo net or anything like that, because you really have to help this gun out to make it work and be any sort of decent. You got 0.35 accuracy at 100 metres, which is in that middle ground where you're starting to get to derpier accuracies, but it's still fairly decent in terms of its accuracy. 2.1 second aim time is also pretty good. It means the aim circle does aim in pretty quickly, which is good for the Lævateinn. You've got 10 degrees of gun depression, which is exceptionally flexible for this tank, meaning you are really, really nice on the ridgeline, and it helps you to go hull down using that fabulous turret that you do have, as this tank is made of the Emil 2 hull, the Tornvang turret, and the UDES 14 Alt 5 90cm gun, or 9cm gun. Not 90mm or 9cm. It's not a 90mm gun, okay, that'd be a big gun. So yeah, you got 10 degrees of gun depression. You can use that turret armor to really good effect, which is very, very nice. You got an 8-second reload, which is 2.1k DPM, which you get up to about 2.8k for a Tier 8 medium tank. That's not too bad. It's not horrific. It's not great. It's just average. Average DPM, really, for a Tier 8 medium tank with about 240 to 280 alpha. You got 208 penetration on the standard AP, which, like I say, is starting to be below that average mark, because around the average penetration for a Tier 8 medium tank these days is about the 220 mark, so you're about 12 penetration worse in that regard. 270 penetration on the premium heat rounds, though, is pretty damn good, and will pen most vehicles you're going to face. You just got to be careful of the heat rounds getting absorbed by spaced armor. With 45mm of HE pen, which is 370 alpha as well. That's quite nice for the low health, or the low armor artillery and stuff like that, but 45 pen can still struggle against quite a few vehicles, so be careful of that with your tank when you load HE. 960 metres a second shell velocity on the standard AP is below average as well, as 1,000 metres a second is about the average. So 960 meters a second shell velocity. You really do have to give a decent bit of lead to hit your shots with this tank. Same as loading the heat, but it's only 10 meters difference if you... 10 meters a second difference, that is, if you load the heat round. So it's not too much difference. And you do have a 150% silver bonus, so you're on the low end of silver bonuses for a tier 8 tank, so it doesn't make the greatest silver in the world, but it does still make pretty good silver, as it is a tier 8 premium tank, so there is that for the tank. Let's have a quick look at the modules of the Leviathan, and as you can see, this is where the engine block is for the tank. So if you get shot in that back end, again, it's quite likely you'll get set on fire, or just have your engine damaged in general. But like I say, I haven't really had my engine... I haven't really been set on fire too often in this tank, so it's not something that's been too bad yet. That's where the ammo racks are on the tank. If you want to damage the ammo racks, you're just best to shoot it directly underneath the turret in the hull, and you will damage the ammo racks quite easily in this vehicle, and especially if they track you through that drive wheel there, or through, especially through that one, the quite likelihood is they will actually damage your ammo rack as well, so be careful of that in the Leviathan. And that's where the crew sits. So there's only 3 crew, so it's quite easy to... So you've got to be careful with the 3 crew, because if your commander knocks out, it's quite likely your commander is either your gunner or your loader or something like that, so be careful of that if that happens. And then in terms of the armour, like I say, it is the hull, because it is a mercenary tank, it's a mercenary Swedish tank. So it is the Mil 2 hull, and it's the same thickness as a Mil 2 hull, so this upper plate is quite easy to pen here and here, especially if it's angled like that. The lower plate can be a bit of a troll every now and then, but it's not the thickest, so it's quite easy to pen. You can side scrape with it, as you do have about, I think it's 60 or 70, 60 millimeters of armor, so you can side scrape and bounce shots off of this, which you'll see me trying to do at times, and you will bounce shots. But you do have to be careful with this tank, because this section, right next to the turret, if we find the thickness of it, but there it is, 70 millimeters. If you're side scraping off this side, they can catch you in this little cheek here, or on the turret ring here if you're just giving too much of that to shoot. And especially with some of the higher pen tanks, they will go through that really easily. So be very careful of that if you're side scraping with this side of your tank showing. This side, it's not too bad, because they can still hit this little cheek here, which is quite easy to pen for the tank, as it is only 150 millimeters thick. And obviously if you're side scraping, you're angling a bit more like this. It's quite likely they'll pen that, but you've not got that section here on the Tornvong turret to actually hit, so be careful of that. But like I say, with the turret armour on this vehicle, it is 250mm of thickness there. The roof deck is 180, so when you're using the full 10 degrees of gun depression, and it's a very small target as well, this turret armour is very, very nice. So that's a very strong point for the Leviathan, which is quite good. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I've stuck the crew in the Mantis, so let's get it back into the Leviathan. Get in there, Hilda. We run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanic, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, and Rapid Aim. Rapid Aim to make the turret traverse in general better on the tank, as it is slower than the tracks. I do like to help that out if I can. All 3 gun perks, because like I say, this gun is really derpy if you do not help it. So I make sure to help it with all 3 perks as much as humanly possible. And since I do side scrape occasionally, and I may have already used the repair kit, I do run Track Mechanic so I can get the tracks back on quicker if I can. If you're not really bothered about that, you could drop that for camouflage expertise to make the camo better. It's really down to you and how you want to play the vehicle. And in terms of the equipment, obviously we run food to make everything better on the tank. Then we run the advanced loader, the gun stabilizer, and optics. Optics to be able to get the best view range we can possibly get out of the vehicle, get it up to that 486 meters of view range. The gun stabilizer to get the accuracy during movement and rotation as good as humanly possible on this tank, so that we can actually hit our shots with relative ease. And the advanced loader to make the best out of the DPM as always. Like I say, you could, if you wanted to focus on making the camo better, run the camo net instead of the gun stabilizer. It will make your accuracy during rotation and movement poor, which means your aim circle blooms out a lot if you don't run the gun stabilizer, but it will make your camo way better, and that could help you stay unspotted in quite a few situations, which could be handy for the Leviathan. But it's really down to you, again, and how you play a tank. There's no real right or wrong way to set up a vehicle. It's always how you feel comfortable playing it, as that's how you will get the best out of your tank. So let's get into the statistics of the Leviathan now it's fully kitted out. So as you can see, we've still got that top speed. Ground resistances have got a little bit better. We've not really helped the hull rotation, so that's still the same. The view range is now at 486 meters of view range, which is about average for a tier 8 medium tank. 46.22 degrees a second on the turret rotation is much faster than it was, and it's slightly faster than the hull now, which is nice for the Leviathan. We've got 1.93 second aim time, which means it aims in super duper quickly. 0.87 accuracy during rotation is still not great, but it's a hell of a lot better than the 1.6 it was. With a 2.01 accuracy during movement, again, not great, and especially as a pair, not great, but a lot better than it was, which is why we've helped it out as much as humanly possible. If you're not running the gun stabilizer, those two statistics are really poor. 0.28 accuracy at 100 meters means this tank is pretty accurate if you're fully aimed. With a 5.83 second reload, you have 2.8, nearly 2.9k DPM, which, like I say, is around the average mark for a tank with 240 to 280 damage in terms of its alpha damage. It's about average. So, yeah, in general, this tank has some nice points. It also has some very average points. And it's one of those tanks that it's not going to rip up any trees. It's not going to rip up the world tree, that's for sure. But it's pretty decent. It's just an alright tank. Like I say, if it looks like it's a bit of you could enjoy it. But it's not one that's oh my god, this tank's incredible, you must buy. So if you like the looks of it, then it might be for you. If not, then, you know, if you're not a big fan of medium tanks, then go ask Yggdrasil and, you know, you might get a better tank at some point in the future. Who knows? So that's Leviathan. Like I say, in terms of it, everything, it is a fairly average tank. It's a fairly well-balanced tank, which is good. It's always nice to get well-balanced tanks. And that's the tank. So what I'm going to do now is send you into the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, see if it's a bit of you or not, and, you know, just you get the gist of what this tank is all about. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Leviathan, and this first replay we're here on this map, which is Vineyards. And on Vineyards, what I'm going to do is go push the position at A5, and then I can push down the A line and basically across the 8-9 line. It's the best way to push Vineyards from this side, because you can get a bit bogged down when you go and fight at K5-6 position, or K4-5 position, I should say. That position, it's quite easy to get bogged down in. You get into a fight where you get shot by lots of people that do camp at JK9. They sit in a position where you can't really spot them that easily. And if you want to push towards where they are, it's quite easy to get absolutely farmed and die. So what's always nice to do is what we're going to do in this replay is basically... first shot derps. That's what this gun is like. It's basically push this position here and then push aggressively. That is a good way of doing it with any tank that's quick enough. So you want to take this position that we've come to at A6. You can shoot people like that KV3 and the ISU 152 that are back there. But if you get to a point where there is nothing on the other side of this ridgeline at A6-7, you want to push aggressively straight into the next dip. You can go hull down and shoot the people like the KV3 and the ISU. And you can get hull down on the little dip at A7 as well and stay safe from the campers that do camp at D8. And there's always people that do camp that there, so you've got to be very, very careful. Now, as you can see with the Leviathan, we've been hulled down against the ISU 152. He's got good penetration on his standard round if he was fully upgraded. And even if he's not going to pen me with AP, because if he's got the derp gun, he would have derped us. So we actually bounced that guy quite easily off our turret front, and that's what the turret front is like with the Leviathan. It is that Tornvong turret. The Tornvong turret is very, very nice and very, very good at being hulled down. So you have that ability. And having 10 degrees of gun depression is lovely with the Leviathan, because it's very easy to use this turret armor, which is glorious. So we're up to 769 assistance damage so far with 1,123 damage. The KV3 dead, the Oni is dead. I assume the ISU also got finished off. So now what we're going to do is make the push that you need to do with the next section of the attack. The next phase. That's what I was looking for, phase. The next phase of the attack, you want to push up to the Campy Hill here, and then you can try and see anyone that might get spotted along the GH line, because people do like to camp behind the little house that's at H0 as well. You can shoot people like that Tiger 2 that are here without getting spotted too easily, because you're a little bit too far away. But if nothing really gets spotted up, and especially with the medium tank pushing to the position at F9, we can quite easily decide, okay, move up to the next hull down section, which is this little ridge line here. But with nothing getting spotted by that medium tank except for the Tiger 2, we're just going to use the momentum, get going, use the 56 kilometers an hour top speed that this tank has, and get under the gun line and to the next phase of the push, which is this position. But what we're going to do is push over, see if we can get a shot into this Tiger 2. Sadly, the first shot missed. We got HE'd by something. I assume that was the TD. We put a shot towards the Tiger 2 again, but we miss again. But we are spotting the two tanks that were up there, so we are getting some lovely, juicy assistance damage. If we can get rid of this Tiger 2, which we do, we can then start to move up and get under their gun lines. Something is still slapping us with HE, and I wonder if that was a stock ISU. Naturally, luckily, actually, to be fair, luckily, our controller dies. Just as we pulled back. If our controller had died and we were slightly further up, that would have been fairly awkward. And also, don't adjust your sets. That means that the audio for this replay is going to be a little bit delayed because it mucks with the recording a little bit. So when we fire, as you can see, it's a little bit delayed. But yeah, now what we're going to do is push aggressively underneath the gun line of where the 112 was and this T25/2. And there's the tank that we must have... Yeah, it is. It's an SU-152. It's the SU-152 with the Derp gun. He's been HEing us and just whittling some of our hit points down. We get a bit lucky that the ISU-152 didn't actually finish us off. But we get onto this corner, side scrape it out a little bit so it's not too easy for him to get shots into us. Make sure we're going to get the pen and go straight through the lower plate of the ISU-152 there. And we're up to 1675 damage with 2.8k assistance so far with the 4 kills. Really nice game so far for the Leviathan. And we see the Gorinich. Now, I know where the 112 was. We know where the art is going to be. They're going to be behind the ridge at K9. So we're going to push into a position to try and farm this Gorinich while he is pushing after our friends. We get a shot towards the back end. We really have to hit the back end of a KV5 with 208 pen to be able to go through it. But sadly, our gun did derp and only do track damage. Now going for the cupola, since that's all we really have. And unfortunately, we end up bouncing there off the back of the turret. He's now a one-shot for us, though, so I'm really hoping maybe he'll drive into a position where we can finish him off. But we ricochet off the top of his turret again, still aiming for that cupola on top. Now he's tracked. It makes it easier for the shot to go straight where we want it to, into that little machine gun port cupola thing on top of the KV5, and secure our 5th kill of this game. With only 2 tanks left on the enemy team, there's the artillery and the 112 around this corner. And the 112, well, the 112 seems to be, well, he was here, right? Because he was looking to shoot us earlier on. But he's just given up, which is a sad time for the enemy team, as it would have been quite useful to have a Chinese tier 8 heavy tank, right? But we're just going to finish him off and secure our 6th kill of this game, get the top gun, and finish the game with 3.2, nearly 3.3k assistance damage, with nearly 2.7k damage in of itself. With the victory, 6 kills, 1958 base XP, with the 1440 blocks as well. First class, the top gun. Really nice game there for the Leviathan on Vineyards. And in terms of the damage output, that was a fairly average game, but we had a pretty nice game in terms of picking up the kills and the assistance damage as well. And I think I just fully showed off what the tank can be like. The gun can be pretty damn derpy when it wants to be, but you can bounce a decent amount off your turret, you can use a mobility to good effect, and you can push quite aggressively because of the fact that you've got 10 degrees of gun depression, a nice turret to bounce stuff off of, and you've got a pretty decent DPM. So we're on to the second replay, and this second replay is in the worst matchup we could be in, which is a very tier 10 game, and we're on Ruinberg, which is possibly not the best map in the universe for the Leviathan, or for any tier 8 premium medium, or tier 8 medium tank in general when you're in a bottom tier matchup. But we're going to push to the mid-ridge, and when we're pushing that way, we actually find this Sheridan. So we managed to get the shot straight through the Sheridan, putting him down to basically a one-shot for pretty much everybody else. But I still want to get to this ridge line, go hull down, and see if there's anything else along the 890 line. We managed to finish off the Sheridan, though, with a nice little shot, because we realised I thought he was just going to pull straight around the corner along the 3 line, but he didn't do that. He just kept driving in a straight line, so we will take that. Sadly for us, though, the Cranvarn puts a shot into our side, waiting for him to give us a free shot, but sadly for us, Mr. Cranvarn is just saying, no. Nuh-uh. Not gonna get it. Maybe you will. Oh, no, you won't. Ha ha ha. No damage for you, my Swedish brethren, or my mercenary Swedish brethren. And he's just been cheeky. But now he's unspotted, and I thought maybe he got unspotted and he won't be seen. And in fact, look at that. We take a blind fire, and then he takes that opportunity to poke out. Sad times. But now there's an E100. Now with 208 pen, we are going to struggle to go through the side of an E100, so we ended up doing track damage only. Was expecting the Cranvarn to maybe poke out again while he was unspotted, but it doesn't come to fruition with that shot. And the Chieftain Mark 6 drives out, so we get a shot straight through the side of the Chieftain Mark 6. And then, thankfully, he stops in the perfect place. We go for that shot into the back of the tank so that we could try and track and pen him, but it doesn't work out. And then we actually get to finish him off. So that's 2 tier 10 tanks finished off in this game, which is always a good time. That's a Lævateinn medal secured, which is great. We're up to 915 damage so far. It is 15-11, so we're starting to whittle the enemy team down. We're going to push aggressively to get after their vehicles that are still in this field section, because they seem to have quite a few people in the town, so we need to go make the most of it. So we go for the shot on the move onto the FV4202P, and sadly for us, it just ended up doing track damage only. But it does end up getting finished off by our teammates, so we'll take it. Oh! Oh! Pat on the back! Me! That was a beautiful shot on the Panzerjäger as we finish him off on the move as well. Oh my lord, that T-30 is looking this way, and he actually hits us on the move. Could have been worse. That T-30 could have had the big gun. But sadly for us, he did hit us on the move, with his bloom probably being absolutely huge, but oh well. We're up to 1770 damage now with a shot into the equalizer. I wasn't expecting either the 268 version 5 or the T-30 to be staring this way. I was expecting them to have their ass pointing in the breeze. The 268 version 5 has turned around though, but we really need this T-30 to be gone before we think about it. But he's got a T-57 Heavy problem, and the T-57 Heavy finishes him off, meaning we can now use the Panzerjäger's dead wreck to try and secure us against this 268 version 5 if he wants to try and get us. We put a shot through the little cupola of the 268 version 5, a second shot through the side. Hopefully maybe pick up a kill on this guy, as he does get put down to lower health, but the Kranvagn drives out front ways on, and we've got the perfect shots down this alleyway, which we're just going to take advantage of. We end up tracking the Kranvagn in front of some of our teammates, so we pick up the juicy assistance damage. It's what I was hoping for when we aimed for that front section. The artillery gets finished off by the Centaur 45T, and there's only one tank left on the enemy team, and it is Mr. Hydra. We're up to 3 kills with 2.8k damage. A really nice game, really, for the Leviathan here in a Tier 10 lobby. Fairly average game in terms of the result as well, but in a Tier 10 lobby, we'll take it. And Mr. Hydra gets finished off by Mr. Nomad. We finished the game with that really solid total for a Tier 10 game for a Tier 8 medium tank. We finished with the 3 kills, 2.8k damage, 1015 assistance, the Lævateinn medal, the second class, for 1689 base XP. Pretty great game there for the vehicle in a Tier 10 lobby on Ruinberg. And let's say it is fully capable, because you've got the decent side armor, enough that you can side scrape if you need to. You've got the good turret armor that you can go hull down with. You got the pretty decent DPM on this vehicle for 280 alpha, so it's not like having a 240 alpha gun where it feels a little bit less impactful when you hit people. When you hit him for 280, you're rolling for around that 260 to 300 mark, which is very nice for the Leviathan and for any tank that has 280 alpha. And when you're reloading pretty quickly as well, it means you can rack up damage pretty quick. It's just that the gun occasionally can be pretty derpy, and it can be pretty frustrating for that lack, or should I say that loss of potential, when you miss those easy shots that the gun just says, yeah, you know what, I'll miss now. And it's just fully capable of doing that, where you sit there going, oh, come on, Leviathan, we could have had more. Damn it. So, we're on this third replay, and on the third replay, we are now hull down in the position at E6, waiting to see if anything will drive around this corner. Because people do push around this corner, we're in the perfect spot for the Leviathan, as we can pull back, keep our turret exposed and not the hull, making it easy to block the damage as well as deal the shots in. We just got to be a bit patient though, waiting to see if anyone will, because you never know. Naturally, it's an aggressive push to push around that corner, so people are hesitant to do it. You've got to wait for it to happen. But in fact, no one seemed to be pushing around there, and especially with the TD now pushing to E7, there's no one there. So what we're going to do is push in to the side to try and shoot down the alleyway in this town on Ardennes and get shots into the back of the TDs. But as we do that, there's a stock Conqueror here. So we're just going to try and side scrape out, find the shot into his lower plate. I'm very disappointed in the first shot we took at him, because it was mostly on his lower plate. And we hit the upper plate, because why not? But we did manage to get the shot into his lower plate. Now he is side scraping himself. We have to be incredibly careful, because it's going to be far easier for him to side scrape it out against us than it is for us to side scrape it out against him. But then we noticed the 5100 at the end. Now, this is a dangerous place because that 5100 might not be alone. They might be able to pull around that corner and quite easily get some easy shots into our side. So we've really got to keep our eye on what is going on. And now there's a stirrer mill. We get a shot to that stirrer mill, pulling back around the corner as quickly as possible, using this building directly in front of me to keep a gap, or to keep a cover, I should say, a piece of cover between me and him. But he's pulled back. And the likelihood of him driving around that corner should be slim to none, because he's not going to take a hit very well. But Mr. Stirrer Mill says, you know what, I don't like this game, I'm just going to die now. And don't worry, mate, don't worry, we've all been there, but we will oblige it. So we're going to side scrape around the corner to see if this Conqueror is still here, and in fact we found an LTG, so we get a shot through the LTG, and with the Conqueror now being the heavy tank I assume that is at F6, we're going to push in and see if we can get a shot into the TDs or into the light tank and the Conquerors. So we pull around the corner, see the Vipera there. The Conqueror came back for us and shot us in the side, which is quite sad. But we also bounced on the side of the Vipera, which we had this whole side and we should pen easily, which is a sad, sad time. But with the Conqueror coming after us, he managed to get 2 shots in. Luckily for me, he did bounce his first one, but the second shot went into our hull. And with him now being shot in the side by the heavy tank at F6, he's turned around to go deal with them. So we're going to help this guy out as much as possible. We RBRT the shot onto the back of the Conqueror, and of course it just bounces. So we're going to make sure we aim it properly this time and finish off that British Tier 9 Tech Tree heavy tank. And now we've got the back of the Vipera, who I'm quite surprised I didn't track that guy there with the shot. But in fact, it's because the shot went high. But the second shot does go in and track him in place. And the Vipera is there. Paid actors, just saying. Not sure what he was doing. Now we can get up behind the KV-4 KTTS to help the heavy tank out. We put the shot into track and pen the KV-4 KTTS. So any shots he will now take will give us assistance. But the heavy tank that's now pushing against him actually pushes him into a position where I can't track and pen him, which is really awkward. So now the KV-4 KTTS has repaired his tracks. We've blown the tracks off, meaning he is permanently pinned, and the E75 finishes him off after we get an extra shot of damage into him there. We're up to 4,011 damage, 899 assistance damage, and that's one thing you always want to do when you are against something like a KV-4 KTTS or any turretless TD, to be fair, like the Vipera, or is it, the Vipera is a turreted TD, but it's not a fully rotatable turretless TD, or turreted TD, I should say, right? Where if you get up behind them, track them. Track them. Because if they're a turretless TD, they really need those tracks to get that good on target. So if you track them, you get assistance for them. And also, you basically completely nullify them. And a bit of foreshadowing, we probably should have done that in the next replay, but there we go. So we get a shot through the S51 with HE, which is what we've loaded. 45mm of penetration will go through the lightly armoured S51 shield, same as the 53-55, and we'll have 370 alpha. So we're going after the 53-55. We go for that shot into the lower plate, which should pen, but it goes wide and does track damage only, and the E75 finishes off the 53-55. And we finish the game with a pretty damn nice total there for the Leviathan on our dens, and we finished with 4.8k damage, 1657 assisted damage with the first class, the high caliber, the Confederate, for 2k, nearly 2.1k base XP, which will normally be an ace tanker, but because it's first day, second day requirements for the Leviathan on the ace tanker requirements, if you didn't know, every new tank that comes into the game is set to the highest base XP and MOE requirements of its class and tier. So the highest base XP requirements for a tier 8 medium tank, or the highest 3 mark requirements for a tier 8 medium tank, that is what a first day requirements are set to for a new tank, so it's quite hard to be able to ace it or get a 3rd mark on the first day. Unless the tank is absolutely blotto mental, and then, in which case, it will then demolish those stats and set its own new record, right? So, yeah, and by the way, that also explains why you may play 30 games in a tank in the first 2 days, get it up to nearly a 1st mark, and then by the time you play it again a day later or a couple of hours later, you randomly go, oh, I'm now at 40%. Why is that? It's because it's reset to the actual live data for that vehicle. Just a little tidbit of information there on that kind of thing when you get a new tank. So when you play that new tank and you get a really good game and get a 2.1k base XP game and you sit there going, oh, I'm going to ace it. Oh, why is that a first class? That's why. Also explaining why random dips in the MOE as well when you get that brand new tank. But I digress. We're on the 4th and final replay of this video, and we're on Wide Park. We're on the spawn of Wide Park. I don't like whatsoever. Why? Because they get all the best positions. They really do. They get all the best positions to be able to farm your team. Can the enemy team throw it? Absolutely. But they get that position through this train undercarriage, which is great for getting shots along the DE line and derailing any attempts to attack through that way. They get the position at D3 as well, which means while I'm attacking this Tiger P, which, well, where did that shot go? Oh, okay. While I'm attacking this Tiger P at D3, they can quite easily poke over, or this Tiger P in front of me, I should say. Those at D3 can quite easily get shots into my side and stop me doing that and destroy me very, very easily with very little retaliation. Because while I'm in the position to shoot those guys at D3, I would have to turn my turret, and the guys that were at, like, the IS and the Tiger P in that position there, they could then quite easily farm me. It makes defending this flank so difficult, and generally teams from our spawn just tend to collapse very quickly because of those reasons. We're up to 2.2k damage with 368 assistance. Great drive. It wouldn't be a video from Petty if we didn't have a driving failure, right? It just wouldn't be. So we tried to get a shot into the IS. It didn't quite work out. We see the 112 and the TD pushing under the bridge. Panzerjäger pokes over, so we're going to put him down to a one-shot. We're just trying to work out what I want to do at this point, because this is looking very awkward and very much like it's going to go downhill. So we get a shot on the move into the IS. The 112's fired at my Charlemagne, so I take the opportunity to go, okay, I'm just going to cross over. Sadly, we missed the RBRT into the 112. We use our mobility to get past the IS. That was an extremely aggressive, risky play, but it's the kind of thing that I like to do just to see if we can, and it's always more fun when you do get away with it. And we're up to 3.2k damage now with a shot into the 112. And the reason I did come to this position was fully to have that crossfire, so that they're not only having to look one way to not take a hit, we can just keep doing this. Sadly for me, the Charlemagne is kind of blocking the 112, making it very, very difficult for me to actually be able to help him. And the T25/2 shuts down the Charlemagne. And at this point, I'm looking at it going, oh boy, this is not looking good for me. We're at 3.5k damage with 436 assistance damage. And I'm fully expecting to die, because we're a one-shot for pretty much everything. If they sneeze at me, I die. We get detected the moment we put around the corner, and in fact, we exposed a little bit too much there for the 112. But thankfully, he didn't pen us. So we're going to wait for him to make the mistake. He drives out, put a shot through his side for 323. And again, I'm just being as careful as humanly possible. And then the Panzerjäger tries it. Good night, Mr. Panzerjäger. We're not going down that easily, bro. Get rid of the OP little tier 8 TD. The 112's not even focusing on us. We get lucky that we bounced the T25/2. We put that 112 down to a position where he might be at one shot. Go for that lower plate shot, but it goes high and hits the upper plate. We load heat because we're going to struggle to pen the 112 with the 208mm of penetration AP. So we load the heat. Heat problems. Absolute heat problems. It gets absorbed by his tracks. The heat round goes through his lower plate. We're going to try our best to get up close and personal with this 112. Face hug him if we can. Go for the lower plate. But it bounces. Looking at the cupola, it bounces. Oh boy, okay, one last try before he reloads. Go for that driver's hatch or the viewport on the front, and thankfully the 270 pen heat rounds goes through that viewport, and we shut him down. That was squeaky bum time. The T25/2 bounces on the dead wreck of the IS, so we're going to see if we can get some cheeky shots now into the Yahtzee while he is distracted, and keeping our eye to make sure that that T25/2 is not just going to drive over. Every shot into this Yahtzee is every little shot counts, because it might be important later on. We put a shot into the side of the IS that makes him a one-shot, which means there's just me and the TD left. 5-2, it's not looking great. So we go over, RBRT the shot into the T25/2, finishing him off. I'm going to look over the top of this train track to see if I can get a shot into the IS, which I can't quite find, but I'm constantly detected. And that makes me think it's the Yahtzee. Now, the Yahtzee has amazing camo, which means that, yeah, I'm probably not going to spot him. And in fact, we actually ricochet an APCR shell, which I assume was the UDES. So we're just going to get down low and get out of the way. And in fact, we have found the UDES 03. We ricochet the shot RBRT. And so we're going to try and side scrape off the side of this building to try and make it so it's hard as possible for him to be able to pen us. And then we can go and get a free shot in. So he does end up tracking us only. We put a shot through his lower plate. And we've just got to try and bait it. There's 2 people in the cap. Now 1. None in the cap. And that makes my spidey sensors tingle and make me go, okay, these guys are coming. So I'm trying to angle up off the building a little bit better. We ricochet the shot from the IS. The Yahtzee misses, so we put a shot through the lower plate of the Yahtzee. I should reload just in time. And we do. We end up finishing him off. We know the IS is a one-shot, so I really need to finish him off in case the UDES rushes us. But the shot, where did the shot go? I don't know. The UDES comes around the corner, misses his shot because he's not in the siege mode. We put a shot through him. He rams us, putting him down to a 2-shot. But at this point, I was too busy being careful of not getting shot by the IS. And the UDES 03 finishes us off. We finish with a close defeat. We end up coming 3rd on the MVP screen on a loss with 5 kills, 6.5k damage. The ace tanker, the high caliber, with that 1438 base XP. A really great game there for the Leviathan in a top tier matchup on Wide Park. Really sad time that we lost that game, but we did absolutely everything we humanly could do to try and win it. We just needed a little bit of help in the end, really. But it is what it is. That's the Leviathan. It's a pretty decent tier 8 premium medium tank, to be fair. You can have good games with it. You can have bad games with it. It is what it is. It's nicely balanced, which we'll take, right? We always like balanced vehicles. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!